Good morning. Welcome to Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Please join me in singing our call to worship, "Oh Sing Hallelujah," hymn number 217 in our gray hymnal. Please stand if you're willing and able. Thank you, Brian and Tiffany, for song leading. The two Brians, that's right. We are so glad to be together in this loving, vibrant community. Whoever you are and wherever you come from, for this hour, we here are one gathered congregation, and all are welcome. My name is Ed Luby, and in the spirit of our KUUFM mission, and as we strive to be more inclusive, I offer this self-description. I am a mid-50s male with some balding issues on top of my head. I'm wearing a bright blue shirt with kind of an Art Deco looking red and silverish tie, blue jeans. I've been here for about 5 years now, and I have served in several different capacities. I have been a board member. I've served on a couple of different committees, and now I'm lay leading today. Our worship leader this morning is our own, thank goodness, Reverend Victoria Poling. In addition to serving our congregation, Reverend Victoria serves the Vashon Island UU Fellowship. Reverend Victoria uses she, her pronouns and identifies as a queer, white, Hispanic, Pacific Northwesterner. We are very glad she is with us today. If you are visiting us this morning, we're glad you are here. If you're here in person, we look forward to welcoming you after the service during our coffee hour. If you're attending online, please introduce yourself in the chat. I invite you to follow along in the order of service. For those of you attending virtually, all the links for the service, including the order of service, are on our website and in this morning's worship service email. If you're here in the sanctuary this morning, please silence all of your electronic devices. The announcements are available on our website www.kuuf.org, or in our weekly email newsletter, The Candle. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the Aboriginal territory of the Suquamish people. Expert fishermen, canoe builders, and basket weavers, the Suquamish live in harmony with the lands and waterways along Washington's Central Salish Sea as they have for thousands of years. Here, the Suquamish live and protect the land and waters of their ancestors for future generations, as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855. Now, Reverend Victoria will give us our opening words.
I offer you my self-description. I have salt and pepper hair, green-rimmed glasses, and I'm wearing a stole with sunset colors.
No mic. Can't hear you.
Is this better?
Yes.
The waters call us here today as well. In our opening words and chalice lighting, Manish Mishra Marzetti gives voice to this river call. Between rocking the boat and sitting down, between stirring things up and peaceably going along, we find ourselves here in community. Each called from many different journeys, many different life paths onto this river road. Some are here because the rocking of the boat has been too much tumult, too much uncertainty, too much pain. Some are here with questions about where the boat is going, how best to steer it, and where this journey ends. Others are here as lovers of the journey, lovers of life itself. Here in front, beside, behind, each a passenger, each a captain, doing the best we can. Rest here in your boat with me, the river calls. Listen to how I flow, the sound of life coursing all around you. Let the current hold you. Let the current guide you. The river that gently flows through your soul whispers, "Come, let us worship." Join me now in lighting our chalice. If you have your own chalice or candle at home, please light it. And Ed will give us our spoken affirmation.
All right, as we play musical chairs over at the front. We gather as a caring community, seeking life's deeper meanings. We value diversity and affirm the worth of all living things. We strive to speak truth in love, to act for justice, to grow in spirit, and to care for the earth. We celebrate with open hearts and minds the creative power that sustains and transforms us. Our next hymn is Soon the Day. It's a song expressing belief in a better tomorrow by the lyricist Ehud Manor and the composer Nurit Hirsch. Please stand as you're willing and able and join in singing hymn number 146, Soon the Day.
When we will be together Otherwise, I'd be like this. Good morning, everyone. This month, we are focusing on the gift of welcome. And specifically today, we're exploring the theme through the lens of welcoming apology and forgiveness into our lives and relationships. So with that in mind, I'm going to share a Yom Kippur story with you. This story is titled, The Hardest Word. A long, long time ago, the world had many large and fabulous creatures. One of those creatures was a gigantic yellow bird with dark red wings and a purple forehead. He was called the Ziz. The Ziz. The Ziz was so huge that when he spread out his wings, he blocked the sun as if he were a dark rain cloud. Every time he flew over a town, all the mothers would call to their children, "Come inside quickly before it rains." This made the big Ziz sad. He loved children, and he didn't want to spoil their playtime. So the Ziz started flying around at night, when no one would notice that he made the sky dark with his gigantic wings. That worked fine for a while. Then one night, the big Ziz flew too high, and he bumped into a star. Sizzle, snap, bang! The star fell out of the sky and down to earth. It burned a big hole in the ground. The next morning, when the Ziz saw the big hole, he was worried. What can I do to cover this hole? He asked himself. He thought about it for a while and came up with an idea. He stretched out his huge wings and went back up into the sky. This time, he knocked down a cloud. Plop! The cloud was full of rain and it filled the big hole with water. Now, the big hole was a lovely pond, perfect for swimming. All the children came running to the pond, screaming with delight. It was a hot, sunny day, and they had a wonderful time splashing and playing in the water. That mistake is all fixed, the Ziz smiled. One day, however, the Ziz made a mistake he could not fix. It was a week before Yom Kippur. He was flying along, not watching where he was going, and flew smack into the tallest pine tree in the world. Boom! The tree fell over and knocked over another tree, and that tree knocked down another tree, and that tree fell on the vegetable garden behind the synagogue. Smash, squash, oops. Oh no, the Ziz covered his eyes with his big wings. Not the vegetable garden, it belongs to the children. The Ziz uncovered his eyes to look at the damage. The tomatoes, the corn, the pumpkins, the beans, the gourds, the squash, all the vegetables the children had worked so hard to plant were smashed to bits. I can't knock down a cloud and fix this, the Ziz cried. The Ziz flew home and sat in his own garden to think. He had watched the children plant their vegetable garden. Every year they harvested the fruits to decorate their sukkah. What would the children do this year? The Ziz spread out his big wings and flew off to have a chat with God. The Ziz had a special place where he liked to talk to God. It was Mount Sinai. The Ziz was so huge that when he stood on Mount Sinai, his purple feathered head reached right up into heaven. "What have you done this time?" God asked as soon as he saw the Ziz. This was not the first time the Ziz had come to Mount Sinai after making a mistake. "I knocked over a big tree. It knocked over another tree. That tree smashed a vegetable garden." "The children's garden?" God questioned. "Yes," the Ziz admitted, hanging his head. "That's a problem," God said. "I can't knock down a cloud and make this better." "No, you can't," God agreed. "What should I do?" "I want you to do something for me," God said. "Anything," the Ziz promised. "I want you to search the earth and bring back the hardest word." "The hardest word?" the Ziz questioned. "Yes," God answered. "Now go." The Ziz stretched his big wings and went off to search. He flew over mountains, he flew over trees, he flew over valleys, he flew over seas. Flap, 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 I'm the biggest bird. Flap, flap, searching for the hardest word. After searching the whole day, the Ziz stopped to rest at the edge of a forest. In a little house nearby, he heard a mother and child arguing. I don't want to go to bed, the little boy said. You need your rest, the mother said. I'm not tired, the little boy cried. Good night, the mother said firmly, closing the door. That's it. Ziz flapped his wings. The hardest word, I found it. He flew as fast as he could to Mount Sinai. With great excitement, he put his bird feet down on the top and poked his purple feathered head up into heaven. I found it. I found the hardest word. What is it? God asked. It's good night. Every child hates that word. Ziz did a dance right on top of Mount Sinai. He loved being right. Good night is a hard word for children, God agreed. I knew it, danced Ziz. But there's another word, even harder, God said. There is, Ziz slumped over, disappointed. There is, God declared, go and find it. So the Ziz spread out his mighty wings and went off to search. He flew over mountains, he flew over trees, he flew over valleys, he flew over seas. Flap, flap, I'm the biggest bird, flap, flap, searching for the hardest word. The Ziz searched for 3 more days. He brought back lots of words to Mount Sinai. Words like rock, rhinoceros, ridiculous, and Rumpelstiltskin. Each time, God sent the Ziz back out to find another word. By the evening of Yom Kippur, the Ziz had brought over 100 words to Mount Sinai. God had not accepted any of them. The Ziz was discouraged. He had tried and tried. He flew back to Mount Sinai to have one more discussion with God. What word did you bring this time? God asked. No word, the Ziz said quietly. No word? No, the Ziz said sadly. I've come to say I'm sorry. I can't find the hardest word. You can't? God asked. No, the Ziz shook his head. I'm sorry. You're sorry? God asked. Yes. The Ziz nodded his big purple head. I'm sorry. Good job, God said. You found the hardest word. I did? Now the Ziz was confused. Yes, God said, the hardest word is sorry. While all the words you brought me were hard, sorry is the hardest. I always say I'm sorry on Yom Kippur, the Ziz said. Well, you should say it other times too, God said. Like when I smashed the garden, Ziz asked. That's right, God said. The Ziz thanked God and pulled his big feathered head back out of heaven. Then he spread out his great big wings and flew back to the children's garden. On the way, he stopped at his own garden and gathered a big basket of fruits and vegetables for the children. It was time to say the hardest word.
Today we are blessing the bags and backpacks of students of all ages, including teachers. And teachers. So if you are attending or teaching classes in order to learn and grow in some way, you are welcome to come forward at this time to receive a blessing and a gift, to remind you that you yourself are a gift to us. Here we go. Come right on up. Mm-hmm.
Ruby, you want to come on this side with me?
All right. Our blessing today is written by Reverend Lee Allison Paxula, and this will be a call and response.
Now is the moment when we bless these bags and backpacks, each of them unique, all of them welcome in this space, just as each of us is unique and our gathered diversity is welcome. We also have these talismans we've made for each person in the room up here to receive during our offering time, and we bless those as well during this time. Don't fret if you forgot your bag. You can still carry our blessings with you. Let us fill these bags and talismans with our blessings, our hopes, and our loving commitment. So I wanted to tell you what they were since they're kind of little, but when we're up in RE, we talk about our principles, and we call them the rainbow principles, our promises about how we want to treat each other, how we want to live in the world, and how we hope everyone in the world treats each other. And the first one is, we say all people have inherent worth and dignity as adults, but the kids, we say each person is a unique gift. So there is a little teeny gift on here, a little pewter gift, and the letters UU, and then rainbow hearts and stars, and they'll hook onto their backpack so they can take us with them. And the neat thing is that, you might have heard, but we're using Soul Matters, and the theme this year is the gift of our faith. So that gift shows us that each of us is unique, but we also carry the gift of our faith with us. So we'll speak these blessings into this room and invite you to add to them by saying, blessings on these bags and backpacks. So let's try that together. Blessings on these bags and backpacks.
May these bags and backpacks be sturdy and strong to last through the weeks and months of learning ahead, reminding us of our own strength, our own ability to carry what is heavy, whether that is hard times or textbooks. May we remember as well that it is more than okay if someone helps to carry our bag or the things that within that weigh us down. We are capable and we are here to help each other. Blessings on these bags and backpacks.
Each day we carry these bags. Let us fill them up, not just with the material things we need to get through the day, knitting for our hands, pens and papers to help us remember what we're learning, snacks to nurture our bodies, but also less tangible things like our shared commitment to the values of interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice, all centered around love. Blessings on these bags and backpacks.
Each time we open these bags and backpacks, may we remember to keep our minds and our hearts open, to be willing to change as we encounter new information and new people and new situations. May we remember that part of how we love the world and our neighbors is by learning and growing and changing. May we be open, as our bags are open, to doing things differently.
Blessings on these bags and backpacks. May the weight of these bags remind us that we carry with us into each day not just our own courage and creativity and compassion, but the love and support of this religious community of learners and seekers, that we are loved and we can do hard things, and we are not alone.
Blessings on these bags and backpacks. When things get tough, when the road seems extra muddy and rough, may we look at these bags, take a moment to be present in our bodies, however squiggly and wiggly they may be, and breathe in and breathe out and remember, when we breathe in peace. When we breathe out love. Blessings on these bags and backpacks. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing out our children and youth.
Thank you. We gather as a religious community to give each one of us a place where we can do the work of many. Together, our light is much brighter than a solitary flame. Now is the time in our service where we share in the sacred act of giving. an expression of gratitude transformed into generosity that breathes life into our mission. As part of our mission that inspires us to act on our beliefs, we share our weekly offering with a local nonprofit agency providing services within our larger community. Our charitable giving recipient for the month of September is Kitsap Mental Health. In a moment, our ushers will move among us with baskets to collect the offering. Donations placed in the basket will go to Kitsap Mental Health. If you would like your offering to be used for KUUF, please use one of the envelopes provided to you with your order of service. For those joining us online, you may go to our website, kuuf.org, and select the Giving tab for PayPal and mailing information. If this is your first time at KUUF, feel free to let the basket pass you by. Your presence is your gift. Let there be an offering to strengthen and sustain our community, which is sacred to so many of us. Let us enjoy a gift of music from our music coordinator, Brian Kenny. Actually, Brian Kenny is going to be playing Venetian Boat Song by Felix Mendelssohn. The person who was in your program, Hannah Wandling, will not be here today. She is dealing with some health issues.
Now is the time for joys and sorrows. When shared together, our joys are amplified and our sorrows are lessened. Brian Watson has a joy that I spent some time visiting with longtime KUUF member Wilma Harkins at her home. Wilma, excuse me. She's a dear soul, and it was a joy to share time together. Jessica Demick's family has the joy that she had a medical procedure that went well, and she is very hopeful. Megan Shepard has a joy that after being at Seattle Children's Hospital for 3 days, Harper is home and back to her happy, healthy self. Yay. Alan Searle writes, 12 years ago today, Jerry and me were married at KUUF. She's definitely a keeper, and maybe I am too. Who'd have thought? Terry Looney has a joy that after Bill spent an overnight in the ER for chest pressure, all the tests were negative. Negative for heart attack or anything else. Rowan Braybrook is wanting us to send healing thoughts to a friend at her former congregation in DC who's about to start aggressive treatment for leukemia. She said UU prayers and long-distance hugs would be very welcome. Nancy Slate, sorry, I don't yet know everyone's names. My joy for the wonderful evening of music that Brian Kenny gifted us with last night. A big thank you to Brian and his fellow musicians who accompanied him on guitar, and Ed Luby who sang. And we'll light one last candle this morning for those joys and sorrows that are as yet too tender to be shared. Please join me in a moment of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life, open our hearts in compassion to the joys and sorrows we've just heard. Comfort us with the flow of our breath through our bodies. Move us into releasing our burdens as well as releasing our joys out into the world to begin this week renewed. Amen.
Now let us sing Spirit of Life, hymn number 123 in our gray hymnal and on the screen. You may remain seated. Our first reading today is by Victoria Safford, her Walking Toward Morning. Today is the second day of Rosh Hashannah, the Jewish New Year, which celebrates the birthday of the world. So our reading is a reflection on this time in the Jewish calendar, known as the Days of Awe, as in wonder and awe. These are the words of Reverend Victoria Safford from her book of meditations, Walking Towards Morning. Imagine this. On the days between Rosh Hashannah and Yom Kippur, every fall, every year, the people make their peace with anyone they've wronged or slighted or injured in any way or in any way neglected in the past 12 months. The task is not to patch things up, smooth things over, reach a compromise, or sweep mistakes and uneasy memories under the rug. The task is not to feel better. The task is ownership. The goal is truth for its own redemptive sake. I did this. I said this to you and it was wrong. I neglected this. I botched this. And I betrayed you thusly. I demeaned you whether you ever knew it or not. This is the truth in which both of us are living. I ask you to forgive me. Imagine how many deep breaths you would need to take. Imagine how many doors you'd have to knock on, how many phone calls you'd have to make, how many letters, how many lunches and coffees, how many awkward moments with your children and your parents and with strangers, like that cashier to whom you spoke so sharply. Awkward is irrelevant. The task is not about comfort. It's about truth, about wholeness and holiness, restoration. Imagine this. Someone has been preparing all year to speak with you, to write to you, to ask you a hard question. Perhaps in some way not quite conscious, you've even known this, and you've been preparing too. And finally you answer the door or the phone or open the letter with shaky hands, and there it is, what you thought you'd been longing for but really have dreaded. Someone is asking your forgiveness. And the task is not about comfort, it's about truth. Awkward is irrelevant. You get to choose now, and you have to choose whether and how you will participate in this restoration. Abandon the pleasant piety that claims knee-jerk forgiveness as the unquestioned moral course. You get to choose which way will be right in this case. Between you as persons and with all your gods, what response will make the world more whole? Imagine. Something yearns in us to come round right. Something creaky, rusty, heavy, almost calcified within us, tries, in spite of us and all our fears and self-deceptions, to turn and creak and turn again and come round a little truer. Something in us stretches towards conversion. Imagine healing, holy, from within. Let's be in our hearts for a moment of reflection.
Shana Tova. Happy New Year. Today we are welcoming the opportunity to make amends and to welcome forgiveness. As we heard in the reading just now, these can be scary and awkward moments. Even just talking about making amends, many people feel a little uncomfortable. I just wanted to name that, to acknowledge that you yourself might be squirming a little bit inside right now, thinking of something that you know you need to apologize for. And to be honest, I'm squirming a little bit inside too, because I can think of a few things on my list. So if you're worrying, did I do something wrong? Am I being judged? Deep breaths. This conversation about repair and making amends is larger than you and larger than me, larger than Kitsap Unitarian Fellowship, large enough to include a big ziz on top of Mount Sinai. Making amends is really difficult for most people. And as the Ziz found out in our story for all ages, saying sorry is the hardest word. So why do it? Well, because the truth is worth it, as Victoria Safford noted, but also because there are spiritual benefits to making peace with another. If you've ever felt more at peace with yourself after offering someone an apology, you already know that taking the steps of repair has these spiritual benefits, ones that may inspire us to make amends. The 12-step recovery programs have a very beautiful description of this spiritual growth that can occur by going through the process of repairing relationships, which is the 9th step in the 12. And I'd like to quote from Narcotics Anonymous. The spiritual benefits of making amends that we may be aware of first are a sense of freedom, an absence of guilt and shame, and it may take some time in recovery or experience with several amends for us to appreciate some of the other spiritual rewards, such as a more consistent awareness of the feelings of others and the effects of our behavior, a sense of joy that we were able to heal a long-standing hurt, an ability to be more loving and accepting of the people around us. And as a result of making amends, we're free to live in the present, able to enjoy each moment and experience gratitude. Memories of the past no longer hold us back. We've been given an invitation to live by our higher power, and we accept it with gratitude. Someone who's in recovery recently shared their story with me, that making amends is earth-moving. This person gave me permission to share the story, and this person uses Z, Zir, and Zir's pronouns. Z needed to make amends with Zir's sister. Z realized Z had behaved badly towards her in retaliation for her behavior. As Z reflected on the larger situation of their family, Z noticed that their father had treated the sister worse than the others as a teenager. This gave Zir the compassion to forgive her and move forward with making amends. Now, the 12 steps call for making direct face-to-face amends to experience that in-person impact. Well, Zir's sister lived far away, so Z called her up to say, "I've changed my ways, and I hope to prove it to you in person someday." Well, she replied that no, she would not accept these amends over the phone, and instructed Zir to write them out. It took a month to write that letter. This was hard. 10 days after mailing it, Z received a postcard that said, "I long ago had forgiven you." Earth-moving. In Unitarian Universalism, repair work is part of the gift of welcoming all of ourselves, of other people, and the sacred, or what is ultimate in our lives. Karen Lynn and Nancy Palmer Jones, authors of Mistakes and Miracles, Congregations on the Road to Multiculturalism, assert that the core message of UU is welcome. The core message of UU is welcome. One way to define welcome is as a form of love and care that enhances and empowers everyone's participation. I'll give you an example. Remember a time when you had an unreconciled hurt or conflict with someone? How did that impact your interest and ability to feel welcoming towards that person? I may be going out on a limb here, but I'm going to guess that it decreased your ability to empower and enhance that person's participation in your life, including inviting them to activities or engaging with them in the community. The 12-step manual says when we do the work of making amends, we're doing it for ourselves. Yes, and as UUs, we recognize the welcoming effect of making those amends, that it is a welcome for the other on behalf of the community of which we're a part, to enhance each other's participation. And that making amends is part of a free and responsible search for right relationship. Making amends is an essential part of the Jewish tradition. In Jewish thought, teshuvah is a Hebrew word translated as returning to a path of right behavior. Teshuvah can be done at any time, but the time between Rosh Hashannah and Yom Kippur is considered especially auspicious. The goal of making amends is not only to repair the relationship, but to repair our broken world. Rabbi Danya Ruttenberg began a conversation about this shortly after the #MeToo movement began. She was on social media talking about making amends and was surprised by the force of people's responses. They kept landing in this place where people felt they just didn't know what to do, how to make amends, or how to repair relationships. Anyone relate to that? I hear some knowing chuckles. That's part of the discomfort, isn't it? We want to know what works and how to do it well and do it right and not make a mistake again. And there's a lot of weight resting on it. So Rabbi Danya studied the medieval Jewish philosopher Maimonides to write a book about this. Maimonides has a 5-step process for repair. She researched examples such as international political apologies, reparations between colonizing cultures and indigenous peoples, the legacy of enslavement, and personal relationships. And in each of the scenarios, she found that when Maimonides' 5 steps were followed, the result was genuine repair and reconciliation. Since we're not in the medieval era, we're in the internet era of how-to listicles. Let this be a relief to us. There are only 5 steps, but they're not easy. 5 easy steps. And I'd like to share them with you. Maimonides' steps begin with naming and owning the harm. Just naming it. That's confession. And then regret. Starting to change through reflection and learning more and starting to pay forward with other people what you've been learning. Then the 3rd step is to make restitution and accept the consequences. And that's where those face-to-face conversations come in. And the 4th step is to apologize. The 5th step is to vow to make different choices. A sign of repair work done well is that when given the opportunity to make the same mistake, and we're always being offered opportunities to make the same mistake more than once or twice, well, then the person declines the offer to do so. Thank you very much. I'm not going to make that mistake this time. You may have noticed that apology is not step 1. The I'm sorry that the Ziz found was not the first thing that happened. First, he traveled all over looking for the words. He was starting to change through learning. Apology is step 4. And you may have also noticed that this process doesn't involve the forgiveness of the person or people who have been harmed, though you are encouraged to ask 3 times. The choice to forgive is up to that person who has had the experience of harm. If you would like to learn more, you will have an opportunity. Rabbi Danya Ruttensberg's book is this year's UUA Common Read. It's called On Repentance and Repair, Making Amends in an Unapologetic World. There's a brand new copy in the KUF library if you'd like to check it out, and there will be an adult education program on this book, most likely later in the spring. Also, a side note, because it's in the title of the book, I want to address the word repentance. I recognize that some of you have come from religious backgrounds where this concept was used in ways that bring up painful memories. Repentance here means to return, that Hebrew word teshuvah. It's to return to right relationship for the sake of repairing our world. It's not about a judging God. It's about healing between people. As a form of healing, making amends calls for deep humility, clarity, and trust in our purpose, especially as in the 12-step recovery process, recognizes very beautifully that we often owe amends to people who have also harmed us, right? It can be complicated. So the task is to separate what they did from what we did, to know our part in these situations, and not be making amends to try to manipulate amends and apology on their part. We're not responsible for cleaning up their side of the street. This is difficult to do. It's not 5 easy steps. It's just 5 steps that Maimonides teaches. And in such situations, after we've made our own amends, we may offer forgiveness or not. Finally, having made amends, it may also be necessary to forgive ourselves. On Rosh Hashannah, there's a ritual designed to offer comfort and release, to help with forgiveness from within, from God, from however you experience what is ultimate. And that tradition is to cast your mistakes away by throwing breadcrumbs into a flowing body of water and recite from the Hebrew scriptures, "You will cast your errors into the depths of the sea." If today you are holding on to regret for a mistake you made that you've already named, already learned to do differently, and have already accepted the consequences and apologized, I offer you this blessing. May you forgive yourself this week for what happened. And if you have time to go down to the seashore, cast some pebbles into the sea. So folks, this has been a heavy yet important topic today. Not necessarily the easiest one to embrace with a new minister, so thanks for hanging in with me for this new year. I hope you can feel some encouragement that people for millennia have been grappling with relationship repair and will continue to do so. You're not alone, and there are plenty of people here who could learn with you if you'd like a helping hand. Remember, when you do this work, you're not doing it just for yourself. Making amends is a portal to a question of how will this help us serve others and repair our world. May the work of making amends refresh you and connect you to all that is sweet. May it be so. Our closing hymn, to get a little movement in our bodies after this topic, is a very special hymn, "When the Spirit Says Do," an African-American civil rights anthem sung at demonstrations and marches and meetings in the 50s and 60s. This helped reinforce the community identity and strength of purpose. So please rise in body or spirit and sing our closing hymn, number 1024, in our teal hymnal, "When the Spirit Says Do," and the words will appear on screen.
You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do. Oh Lord, you got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 sing. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you got to sing. Oh Lord, you got to sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 Says sing. Spirit says sing. You got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. You got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. When the Spirit says laugh, you got to laugh. Oh Lord, you got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. 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 You got to shout when the Spirit says shout. You got to shout when the Spirit says shout. When the Spirit says shout, you got to shout. Oh Lord, you got to shout when the Spirit says shout. 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 You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do. Oh Lord, you got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 Thank you. So after the service is over today, please exit through the foyer. Coffee and tea will be served in the breezeway between our two buildings, or in the foyer, whichever way it is. We'll wing it. You are welcome to bring your beverage and snacks back into the building if you wish, or remain in the building if that is the case. Social Justice Committee will be meeting at 11:45 in the admin room. All are welcome. There will be a presentation on epigenetics, causes and effects at 11:45 in the sanctuary. This is an auction lecture, and space is available. The Healthy Communications Committee is seeking nominations for people to be trained to join the Healthy Communications team, aka the listening team. If you are interested in nominating someone or learning more, or have been contacted as being nominated, Marsha Christian will be holding a short info meeting in the Elmore room today after the service at 11:45. So lots going on at 11:45, folks. Our closing words will be offered by Reverend Victoria.
Dear ones, may the work of making amends refresh you and connect you to all that is beauty. May all that is unforgiven in you be released. May your unlived life blossom into a greater joy in this life that we share. And may the Spirit of life renew us all for a year that is good and sweet. Go with heart.